Kia ora koutou. My name is James Russell, and if you're here, you've found Mad Surf Stories. I'm a surfer, former journo, and author of surf fiction. There's a bit more about that at the end of the podcast if you're interested. But most of all, I'm an enthusiastic appreciator of a good story, especially if it has surfers or surfing involved. There's a rich vein of stories out there in the surf community, of exploration, heroism, yard sales, wildlife encounters, loose units, disasters, and just general epicness. It's those yarns I plan to mine with Mad Surf Stories, so if you have one or know of one, get in touch by emailing me at james@dragonbrothersbooks.com. Righto, on with the show. This week, we're back for part 2 of Elliot Foote's Mad Surf Story. Elliot, his girlfriend, and his best mates are shipwrecked and floating midway between Nias and the Banyak Islands. They've spotted an island just before dark, and as the fastest paddler, Elliot makes the decision to leave the others and make a last-ditch attempt to reach land before darkness falls for a second night adrift in the Indian Ocean. Lock in, folks, because this story only gets crazier.
Yeah, I shot off, went to an easterly direction, to a northerly direction from there, from wide, and then I was kind of directly to the east of the island, and I was like, okay, this is working. Like, I'm in line with the island now. I just need to go cut like a northwest direction, and that'll pull me into that southerly movement, and then it'll pull me to the island. And as I was like, okay, this is it. This is your final push of the whole experience. Let's go. Head down as hard as you can go. Let's go. Let's go. And I'm pushing and I'm battling it out and head down, paddle as hard as I can, like a sprint, 15, 20 minutes. Pop my head up to have a peek to see where I was in relation to the land, and I couldn't see it. It was nowhere. It was like full 360s, couldn't see land, and I was freaking out. I didn't know. I was so confused. I was like exhausted. I'd sprinted. I was gassed, and I was like, what the fuck? And I just started screaming at the top of my lungs, going like, fuck, like no idea what was going on. And then I look over my shoulder and I can just see like a tiny bit of land on the horizon. And I was like, no way. How, like what? I just swearing and cursing and screaming, but knew that I'd, ended up in a new current pulling me in a different direction. And I've been going with it for 20 minutes. So I knew straight away I was just keep drifting, and I was like, I got to go. I got to keep paddling. I can't stop, otherwise I'm just going to end up completely away from everyone. And there was no land in the other direction that I was traveling, so I was like, shit, I've got to go back, start again from hours earlier, solo.
So if you instead of going heading off in one direction and trying to come back in again, if you'd gone the other direction in hindsight again, do you reckon that would have worked?
I don't know. Yeah. I don't know, to be honest. I'd love to say that anything but that one would have worked perfectly, but I was so sold on that idea at the time that it just didn't make any sense. But now it does a bit more so. That
Jeez, what a heartbreaker.
It was brutal. That was my darkest moment, by far. Just because of the hope and heartbreak, which was a constant, bell curve of the experience. But that was the most brutal for me. And then realizing in that moment you're alone, and there was no way to get back to my mates. And I knew that I wouldn't make land that day too, because I just ended up putting myself in a position 4 hours away from land, essentially.
Yeah. What time?
In comparison to what we'd be.
What time?
It's probably like 3 o'clock or so. So yeah, like back end of the day, sunset at 6. It was a 4-hour paddle. I was getting in the dark if I was going to make it, and not to mention I've already been paddling since 8:30 in the morning. I just did a 20-minute sprint. Like I was pretty wrecked, and but yeah, I had no choice but to keep moving. And you really dig deep in these sort of times, and you find a beast inside yourself that you never knew existed, and you just keep chugging, and you expand your limitations and your belief system of what's possible for you, and you just keep going. So kept going. Started making my way back in the other direction. Then the tidal change hit, and then it started pulling me towards the land at least. And yeah, there was just some weird stuff going out there where like everything kind of eddies around land, and it's so deep there and that these massive, it's like 500 meters deep or something in that area, and then these land masses just shoot up out of nowhere. So the movement of the currents around these land masses is very powerful and distinct. So to get out of that current onto land is very challenging. And when you're not got enough in the tank to sprint, I found it really, really hard to reach land. Um, but yeah, I got back to within eyesight, a good eyesight of land just before dark, and I'd rather like probably about 2 hours, maybe like an hour after I got split up and had that scenario, a plane flew overhead, and in that we could see. Well, I realized in that moment that people were looking for us. For the first time, I realized that people were actually out there looking for us because we hadn't seen any boats or anything, and there was no signs of anything searching for us up until then. It's too remote for commercial flights to be up there, so I had a good inclination that that was someone searching for us. But it just went the wrong. It went a different direction to where I was, and then I didn't see it again. So um, yeah, there's only so much you can really hope for in those scenarios. But yeah, I kept going, and then as night started to settle in, I was pretty close to land, and there was like a as the night came on, there was like a green light flashing maybe 30 centimeters off the surface of the water.
Yeah.
Storm had finished, clouds were gone. It was a beautiful afternoon. Sunset was amazing,
So
360
how
degrees
close do you reckon
sunset.
you got at that point before it got dark? If you were to estimate how many k's away it was.
Probably like 1.5K.
Oh, right. So
Yeah.
you were
But
just your plan was just to keep going for it and just make it landfall at night.
no, I didn't want to paddle at night. There was still a lot of movement in the ocean. I don't know if I would have made it that night. But I wanted to be where I was in the morning. I didn't want to miss land in the night because there's no lights on anything. You can't see it until you're on it type thing. And if I'd missed land in the night and then the next day been in the middle of the ocean, I'd have no idea about swell and wind. I'd have no idea where I am. I'd have no idea, the risk wasn't outweighing the chance of exerting all that energy going for it and then to potentially miss it was just like that would have been the worst case scenario. But in hindsight, I could have maybe made it. I don't know. Like I'd rather, in the moment, I felt more inclined to stay stationary and then go for in the morning.
So you were going
Um,
to use that green light to try and keep your bearings during the night and stay in that spot.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, yes. That was the plan, was to stay with this green light and then hopefully in the morning be able to be exactly where I am in that moment. I wanted to get to the green light and hold onto it for the night. But unfortunately, same as the eddying of land, it just never allowed for me to actually touch it. I could get within about 15 meters, like could have thrown a stick at it,
No
but
way.
it was just so strange. I just would never be able to get to it. I can't explain it. And yeah, it's safe to say it absolutely tortured my mind for hours in the night. Like paddle for 40 minutes, drift past it for 20, try and get to it, could never get to it.
What?
And
What? So it was a buoy.
it was like a small yellow flotation thing that they attach to strings to like fishing markers or little
Right.
reef markers, and it just sits kind of floating with the downward force. It holds it upright and bobs up and down and creates this flashing beacon on the surface of the water. Um, but I don't understand why I couldn't get to it. It's yeah, one of the many things that became completely wild of that evening. But yeah, it's just one of those things. It was so strange.
Were you close to getting delirious, or were you hallucinating, or anything like that going on?
I was definitely close. Um, I knew I was close now because maybe about 2 hours, 3 hours after the sun going down. I had been doing, 40 minutes paddle to this marker or past it, 20 minutes resting, drifting, and just kind of doing that on rotation. By now, my body was wrecked. I had a rash from, you know, mid tricep down to the bottom of my lats on both sides and spanning the whole width of my body. So like my entire, front to back was rashed. My nipples were completely rashed. My chest, um, like my stomach was all rashed up. So every time getting back on the board was just torture for about a minute, and then pain would subside, paddle would kick in, and yeah, I was on this rotation of 40 minutes, 20 minutes, 40 minutes, 20 minutes, and about the third or fourth go, I looked up and could see the green light, but then I could just see these gum trees, like Australian native gum trees, all around me. I was looking around, going, "Oh my God!" Like they're not real, but they're there, and no matter what you do, you can't shake them. And they weren't. It wasn't like a forest where, like, you turn your head and it's all new trees. It was like the same visual every time you turn your head. So it's just like this constant. It was like look, it was like being inside of a picture. Like it's not like it's three dimensional, but it follows your head turning. It was so strange. And I was like, whoa, like this is insane. You're fully hallucinating, but it's cool. Like it's fine. Like, you've still got, your body, like you're still moving. It's all good. Like just don't stop, don't stop. And yeah, that was the first of many, many hallucinations. And those gum trees didn't end up leaving me for the entire evening. Everywhere I looked, I could see gum trees.
All right. And this is in the pitch black too, right?
Yeah, yeah, they weren't like they were definitely defined, and it was like being in the bush in the night, like you could see trees in the distance, but they weren't like green,
Right.
they were like,
And
yeah, like
when you
silhouetted.
stopped for those 20-minute periods, were you sort of nodding off? Like were you sort of going crossways on the board, and would you
Yeah,
nod off
yeah,
or?
exactly. I did. I would like, because I'd have my chest on the board and my legs dangling in the water, and I'd be, yeah, perpendicular to the board, so the board would be crossways across me. And I'd have this green torch that I grabbed the night before, which was a flashlight in case someone came in on me. And I'd have that sitting on the board, and that would be about, 200 mil, 20 centimeters thickness. So I'd be able to keep my head on the side on that. There's a rubber bit for it, so it's quite comfortable. But excuse me, um, my like every now and then my head would like slip off the torch and hit the board. I'd like come to and be like, "Oh shit, where's this light? Oh, there it is. Oh God, that's pretty far. I should get paddling." Or like a wave would splash me in the face, and I'd be like, "Oh, okay, where am I?" Like, yeah, let's start paddling. Or there was like bioluminescent algae in the water. It's like phosphorescence, and that would like kind of feel like sea lice on my legs, and that would snap me too. And I'd be like, "Okay, where's this light? There it is. Let's go." The phosphorescence made for a pretty amazing experience too. Like every single paddle, every single ripple of the water was just glowing with like stars in the water, and there was like these red flashing lights, which is not red, like more like a golden trail coming off me, which is really cool. Obviously, I was hallucinating, so it
Mm.
probably was a bit heightened, but yeah, clear as day. And there was also another wild thing going on that night. It was like the 14th of August now, 2023, and it's the Perseids meteor shower was occurring in that region, and it was new moon, so there was no moon around, and the stars were just crazy because you're in the middle of nowhere, like northwestern Sumatra. There's not much light pollution, and there was so many shooting stars. It was a constant meteor shower. So,
Wow.
and it was like one of the most best for viewing that evening. So I ended up, there'd be, I think it was like 100 shooting stars every hour. So it's pretty much nonstop. And when you're hallucinating and you're like, speaking to every single god you can possibly imagine, you're just feeling all these signs and shifts of energy, and it was cosmic and beautiful. But
Yeah, wow. So it wasn't all
terrifying all at the
completely.
same time.
Tell me, were you freezing cold at this point?
I was paddling a lot. I was paddling
Yeah.
most of the time, so that kept me warm. Um, and yes and no, not really. Nah, I wasn't freezing. Fortunately, the water's temp was still good, 27 degrees or something. So yeah, but then I guess moving on, like the hallucinations just kept ramping up. I had this one where there was like the whole surface of the water was fluoro. It looked like flapping post-it notes, all different colors along the entire surface of the water. Gum trees were there. I had like a fox run next to me and drop into the water. I had like a dog run next to me and drop into the water. Um, then I rested for another 20 minutes once I got near the light. That all ordeal kind of ended, and then still at the gum trees. Um,
Nothing scary. They sound quite pleasant, you know. Maybe that's
yeah,
a reflection of the inside of your mind. I don't know.
yeah, no, it was nothing scary. Yeah, I don't know how to explain it, but I feel like hallucinations are a way for your body to give you a reason to keep going. You know, like if you're in the desert and you see an oasis 20 k's away, you're going to keep moving. You're not going to just drop.
Yeah,
You're going to, it gives you a hope and
true.
kind of gives you a flush, like a flush of energy. So I had these like multiple experiences where like I'd be like, this is fucked, or like get a bit down on myself or whatever. And then I'd have this something to make me keep going,
Yeah,
like,
I guess it's a break from that mental anguish, right?
yeah, for sure. Like it's just something that makes you want to keep pushing. Something to fight for, like just flushes in and flushes out, and you're like, okay, yeah, we got to do it. We got to do it. Like, like the gum trees reminds me of home. We got to get home. All these people at home are probably wondering where I'm at. Got to get home. And then the dog looked a lot like Steph's dog Java, so I was like, okay, we got to get back to Java, And yeah, I don't know. There's just so many wild things. There wasn't anything negative. I had a pretty wild encounter with like a female entity when I closed my eyes at one stage, and that gave me a burst of energy, which was insane. At that time, felt like I could see these 3 meter high harbor walls all around me, and I was just sitting in the middle with the phosphorescence all around me, and um, two children looking up at me from underneath the water, and they were like tickling at my feet, like up to no good.
Ooh,
That was a bit annoying, but it wasn't scary. And then on top of the harbor walls, there was like a marketplace, and then behind the marketplace was like temples. And it was just this real weird visual. And it was like everyone in the marketplace were looking at me, and like, I don't know, I'm a bit interested in quantum physics, and I felt like I'd tapped into another world or another realm in that moment, and they could see me and I could see them, but like we couldn't communicate normally. I don't know.
it's a
We
whole
go
new
into,
level of it's a whole new level of detail on top of the just the gum trees, right?
oh
To
yeah,
create all that. I mean,
it
I
was,
guess your dreams can be pretty detailed, but it kind of
yeah.
feels like
Well,
that state.
it feels like a dream state, but there was a presence. It wasn't like, yeah, there was a field. You could feel them. But at that point, I'd pretty much given up. I was like, this is just fucking wild. None of these people are talking to me. And then I was like closing my eyes and just talking to this female entity in my visual. And she was like standing in the doorway with her back turned towards me with these crazy geometric patterns coming off of her. And I was just like, please, please give me a reason. Give me something. Give me something. I know I've got more to give. I know I've got more to give. Like, don't make this the end. Don't make this the end. I know I've got more to give in this life. Please, please give me a reason. Give me something. And then she just starts slowly turning her head over her shoulder. And then as I see the profile of her face, I just get this burst of energy. And I was like, fuck it. I'm gonna paddle through this harbor wall. Like I'm gonna go straight through that wall. If it's real, I'm gonna hit it. If it's not real, I'm gonna go straight through it. And I just powered at this thing, and it was the strangest thing. I feel so weird explaining these hallucinations because they're just so insane and so unbelievable, but like it's just what happened. So I gotta just kind of swallow my own judgments for bits and
Yeah,
just be like, okay, this is just explaining it. I was paddling at this wall and it was dead calm. And then it just got more and more choppy and like there was almost waves coming at me. And I was like kind of ducking my head under and getting through these waves. And I was just screaming and powering at this wall. And then I ended up going like through the wall during this moment. And then it was dead calm. And this whole hallucination had just disappeared.
Yeah,
I
wow.
remember just popping my head up and going like, what the fuck was that? Like
Yeah, yeah.
freaking out, but also being out of this realm, frequency, whatever. And just having the torch and flashing it around, being like, what the hell was that? What the hell was that? And then, yeah, just realizing that, that burst of energy, that's like what I was saying was like, it gave me a hope and a reason to push through. And I ended up in a much more comfortable position of nothingness rather than in this confusing space that I'd been in. I liken it to like the Truman Show when he gets to that big storm at the end, and then he gets through it, and then like it was because it was like a physical hallucination. It wasn't like visual feeling. It was waves were hitting me in the face. Like I don't know. I can't explain these things, but
Mad. Oh, it's
it's
not
it's
surprising
insane.
though, given that amount of time out, and how exhausted you must have been. Would have been all
Yeah, well,
kinds of,
by now probably looking at 30 hours in. So
yeah.
yeah, and yeah, completely exhausted. I've been paddling for a lot of that, and then no food, no water, no sleep. Second night, no sleep. So
So did you
yeah.
manage to stay close to that green marker until it got light? And when it did get light, could you still see the land?
Yes, I managed to stay close to that marker for half the night, and then I nodded off after the fox and dog scenario for a bit longer than previous nods, and ended up seeing a new light. And then I went to that light, and that's what became this harbor. And then I stayed with that light pretty much until maybe 2, 3 hours before the sun came up. And then I just kind of got to a point where I just drifted. I was like, fuck this. Like, I'm done. I'm so done. I need to reserve my energy. No more paddling. I'm warm enough. Like, let's just drift and accept it. And when the sun comes up, we'll know if that's a hallucination or if it's real. Because at this point, I'm paddling for things that I think are real. But shit, I'm tripping
Yeah,
nuts out here. Like that could
yeah.
be
You just seen
the
a
wrong
hub.
direction. Like, I got no idea. I'm just kind of keeping warm and moving and trying to stay put. But like, who knows if that green light is even the same green light anymore? Like, there's just so many doubts and questions
Yeah,
and things that I just was like, I had my watch and I was like, okay, there's 2 hours before the sun comes up. Let's just conserve energy. And when we know what's actually real, we'll get that 15th wind of the experience and go for it.
yeah.
But
So do those
um,
hallucinations stop when the dawn comes? When it gets light, or are
they
you still kind of tripping a bit?
they alter. Went from being vivid and like trees and animals and things like this to becoming more mental, more like I saw land as the sun came up. That sun coming up was the most beautiful sunrise I'd ever seen in my entire life.
So, so
It was the dawning of a new day. It was calm. It was sun was out. It was like, okay, we're going to get found today. Like today's the day. Today's the day. And I knew that wholeheartedly in myself. And yeah, then I saw land not too far away, but the the land had the visual of Steph, Will, and Jordan, my three friends that I'd left. And from that, I was like, okay, there they are. They're safe. They're warm. Um, and they're not coming to help me. What's going on? So I'm yelling at them and I'm paddling towards them. And they're probably about a kilometer away. But with my exhaustion, I got to a point where I couldn't roll my shoulders over anymore. I had to do like breaststroke under my surfboard to propel me forward. And the rashes were so gnarly. And
yeah, 1K is like 10Ks when you're in that state, I guess.
oh, yeah, yeah. And then you throw in the currents and, you don't know what's going on. And yeah, like I just kept moving but it gave me a lot of happiness knowing that they'd been dry and safe. Knowing I did not know that it turned out not to be real, but in that moment it was real. And I was like stoked because we'd left the three Indos to get help. I'd left my three friends to get help. So I felt the weight of six people's lives, including my own, on my shoulders during this whole evening. And now here I was looking at them safe, and it was like a calm had come over me. And yeah, it was a nice place to be. And then I could hear this like helicopter sound, like a pop, 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 pop. Um, sorry, prior to that, I looked to my left and there was these two fishing boats, and I was kind of yelling at them, and they were looking at me strangely, and I was like, "Oh fuck, they're not even real. Like, don't worry about it." And then kept paddling for land, and then yeah, sure enough, that helicopter sound, like a pop, 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 pop. And I was like, "Oh, it's a helicopter," and I'm like sitting on my board, and I'm looking up in the sky, and I'm going, "Where is it? Where is it?" Like, I'm looking at the land, and my friends are looking in the sky, and I'm like, "Oh my God, we can see it! Like, there's something coming for us. There's something coming to rescue us." How did it just get behind me, like behind me now, not in front of me, and I was just disorientated. And then I turned around, and sure enough, there's these two boats from these fishermen just kind of puttering towards me with a little two-stroke engine. Just pop, 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 pop,
So it
pop.
wasn't a helicopter. So they
It
must.
wasn't a
So
helicopter, but it was a
they must have looked at
direct
you.
rescue.
They must have looked at you, seen you look at them, and then just keep on paddling away from them.
Yeah, yeah. Like I looked at them, and I had my board in the air,
Oh
waving it while I
my
was
god!
treading water, and then I was like, they're like shrugging their shoulders at me, and I'm like, oh fuck it, and whatever then. And
I'm going
that
this
that
way.
must need to be real. I'm going to this land where my friends are. And then sure enough, they came upon me, and I was just once I saw them, I'd already was sitting off my board, looking at the helicopter in the sky, and then next minute, I just stared at them and had my mouth wide open, and I was just in shock, and I was like, oh my God, I don't have to do anything. Like I don't have to paddle, I don't have to. It was just the weirdest feeling, like after 38 hours or whatever of constantly thinking,
Yeah,
constantly moving, constantly talking to yourself, talking to this crowd, talking to your mates, like coming up with scenarios in your head, apologies to every single person you've ever, you know, feel like you've done the wrong thing to. And, you know, yeah, just so many moments of reflection of life. And yeah, just,
I understand what you mean. Like you obviously you were still had some steel in you that you were like, I'm still going to have to do. There's still an ordeal. There's still a lot of work to do. And then
oh shit,
so
yeah.
for that understanding to drop, that actually you don't have to do that anymore, and you can let all
Yeah,
that stuff go. You probably didn't want to let it go in a strange way. You probably does that make sense? I don't know. Maybe it
yeah,
doesn't.
yeah. No, 100%. Like, you kind of start obsessing over the scenario, and to have to then drop that out of your mind
Yeah,
is it's peaceful for 5 minutes, and then you realize that actually, wait a minute, we still got to rescue the rest of these people. Like, I'm gonna live. I'm sweet. I'm safe. Awesome. Cool. This is me. I'm gonna see my family again. I'm gonna see everyone again, but am I gonna see them again? Like, we don't know. So I got on the boat, and these guys would have just come upon a ghost in the water. Like my hands looked terrible. 37, 38 hours, salt waters, 27 degrees, constantly submerged, You have a 20-minute bathtub and you look funny.
yeah.
This looked horrible.
I was going to
It was
ask you,
hard to watch.
did
Yeah.
anyone take a photo of you when you were in
No,
that state? Yeah,
I wish they did because just to remind myself of what you can get through in life. But
yeah,
I don't think I actually don't need much of a reminder for that. But just the visual would be intense.
yeah.
Hard to look at, most definitely. But yeah, the only first photo of me is maybe about 40 minutes later when I'd already had about 10 cups of water and some sun on me. So
Yeah.
I don't look as bad as some of the visuals of Steph, Will, and Jordan coming out of the water. You can see their hands and you get an idea. But yeah, like
And
they
did
pulled
those
me out of
boys
the
speak
water.
English?
Nah, nah. Enwarden, and I'm not sure what his friend's name was, but his name's Enwarden, the guy who pulled me out of the water. And crab ran off me as soon as I got on the boat, which is strange. It just ran down my arm and jumped back in the water. And I was
Oh no
like,
way.
what the hell was that? That was
See you,
cool.
buddy.
Like, he was real, but just funny the way how he came and left. And I started yelling at them, going, all right, three friends are on that island, three friends, ticket taman, like three friends, three friends. And they were looking at me like I was crazy. Understandably, they just plucked me out of the ocean as they were on a 2-day fishing trip. And started pointing at that island and jumping up and down on the front of the boat. I was drinking waters. I was slowly coming to and could still see my friends on that island. And then 5 minutes goes by and we're only a little bit closer. Oh shit, it was further than I thought. And then another 5 minutes, getting a bit closer now. Like, oh my God, I would not have made this land. Like, there's no way I would have paddled for this to my death. Like, there's no chance. We're 10 minutes by boat. We're only just getting closer now. And then, the water started kicking in. I started getting hydrated, and I managed to see that my three friends were not my three friends. They were instead some palm trees on a deserted island. And in that moment, I crashed. I dropped to my knees and I started crying, and yeah, all that calm just broke, and the weight of all that pressure and all that timing of paddling and all this, yeah, it just took me pretty hard in that moment, and I was just crying, and then for about 2 minutes, longest 2 minutes probably ever, and then I realized that your job's not done. You set out to help everyone, and here we are. Now's your chance to actually put shit into motion, and you're gonna be all right. But it's time to find everyone. Like, we got to go. And yeah, I started yelling at the Indos, and not in a bad way, just being like, we need to go to Penang Island. We need to go to Penang Island because that's the resort we're going to. And they were like, no, 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 Bay of Plenty, Bay of Plenty. And I was like, okay, cool, Bay of Plenty. Like, let's go, let's go, let's go. And these boats only go so fast. So for the next 40 minutes, I'm just sitting on the front of the boat thinking about what the next step is, what's the next decision to make, what's the next plan. And yeah, we came upon Bay of Plenty, and sure enough, it's a surf camp, and stumbled upon about 10 Aussies and English speakers alike. And yeah, they recognized me from the news. I didn't
Okay.
realize I'd been publicized, and I'd met one of them prior in Nias. We had breakfast one day, David, and so we saw each other and we're like, oh, hey mate, like, what's going on? Like, I'm going,
Okay.
mate, good to see
Bit
you,
of a
but I
trip.
gotta fucking go. I gotta go right now. Like, I gotta go to Penang. I gotta go to Penang. I gotta find my friends. And they're like, no, no, no. Like, everyone's been found, mate. And I was like, what do you mean? No, no. I gotta go. We gotta go find the like all the Aussies and the Indos. And they go, mate, it's all sweet, Elliot. They've all been found. Like, all four Aussies have been found. And I'm going, four Aussies? I'm the fourth Aussie. Like, what are you talking about, mate? That's not possible. And then it kind of came out that the news article had been written wrong, which, if you know the story and you were following in live time, it was all a bit of a kerfuffle. That we got found at 8:30 a.m. They got found with so they got found by my other mates who made it on the first night, and they got found
They made it to
35.
Penang the first night. Those other guys, or did
Yeah, the
they?
eight did. They
Okay, but
did.
they were
They
sheltering behind the island for a while, right?
Yes, for about 3 hours,
And then
and
they
then
shot off
they
and carried on going.
yeah,
Right.
yeah, and they zigzagged their way there apparently looking for us. So they had it in them that that our boat went down. Like, their captain was like, it's not good. Like, they shot into that storm. That was not a good idea. But yeah, our mates, like, so Steph, Will, Geordie, and Artie were their surf guide, who in 24 hours since we left them, with the currents and the movements and the paddling and then the drifting and then, like, just everything random in the ocean, ended up next to them, like 30 meters
Next
in
to what?
24 hours,
Next
like
to
next
who?
to Steph, Will, and Jordan.
Oh my goodness! No
It's
way.
wild. Like, I've done a lot of work with marine rescue since, just like presenting for them and telling the story. And a good friend of mine, Darren Schott, is high up in Marine Rescue New South Wales, and he tells me that that is the craziest thing of the whole experience, is that in 24 hours of being separated, you end up in the exact same spot. Like, at the time of rescue, nonetheless. Like, so the boat's coming in, and Artie's like 20, 30 meters away, still catching up to the others. And they're going, oh my God, we found all four of them, all four of them. And then that gets WhatsApp grouped back to parents, back to news, back to everything, and spreads instantly, like the Western media does. It's just an instant media stream and completely like, express these days. And it got publicized before they even realized that that's not Elliot, that's Artie. And, Artie had to break the news to everyone that Fifun was dead. I'm not sure exactly how he knew, but it seems now that he he kind of gave up at one point. He had too much, and he didn't look good on the first night, so it's understandable. But unfortunately, Artie came in towards Steph, Will, and Jordan and was just like, my friend is dead, and
Shit.
you know, just
So
a
those three
brutal
were
moment.
together, but they were paddling as well, obviously, and he just sort of drifted off the back, or
Yeah, so the three units were together.
yeah.
Um, they were all paddling, but it sounds like, I'm just going by what they've told me. I can't really speak for them, but it seems like they had an idea, you know, to which way we went. Apparently, as soon as we left, Fifun was like, "We're dead, we're dead, we're dead." Like they've left us and all this sort of stuff, which is a horrible sentiment to think about for us. But you know, we thought we were making the right decision, and in the end, who knows what the right decisions are when you're in these scenarios. But um, Artie and like they all split up at some point. They all, like I went off alone because I was the strongest in that mindset in that moment, but they left potentially the weakest in that time. So who knows? It's just one of those things that I'll never fully understand. I'll never fully know the scenario and the context of thought and perspective
Mm.
that led them to be separate. Half the time I don't even understand our ones of our decisions, and I know everyone in my scenario so well. But it's just one of those things that, by the end of it, they ended up separate. And Iqbal was found on the same trajectory as like earlier than the other four. So they've left the island in Tinus's boat. My friend Benny, Ethan, and another guide from the island, a young Czech fellow named Jacob. And as they're going straight line to find the others, just randomly, they ended up straight lining it. Fifan's there with his head in the water, face down. And sorry, Iqbal, my apologies. And they've pulled him out of the water and he started gasping for air and survived. So he was at like his final moments when they found him. And then they kept going on the same trajectory and sure enough found the other four right there, sitting on surfboards, looking at them going like, "Where's Elliot? Where's Elliot?" And they're like, "What? That's not Elliot. And they're like, no, that's Artie." And they're like, "Oh shit, where's Elliot? Have you got Elliot? No, where's Elliot?" And like that video's gone online and stuff. But
So
yeah, lo
sorry,
and behold,
how long
sorry.
how long after that happened did they find you?
Yeah, so yeah, lo and behold, 35 kilometers away, 20 nautical miles, which is, a long
That's a
way.
long way. Yeah,
I
that's
was
where you were
found at the
found.
exact same time,
Right.
8:30 in the morning by non-English speaking, communicating with the outside world fishermen. And they took me to the Bay of Plenty 45 minutes later, and then maybe 10, 15, 20 minutes after getting there, I notified the world that I was alive through a text message to my dad, which was pretty classic, blunt message.
Mm.
Yeah, but
Mate,
yeah, it's
that's
it's
unbelievable.
yeah, it's wild. It's a wild time, crazy
Yeah,
experience.
I can hear in your voice sometimes that you've probably there's probably some existing PTSD there for you, and obviously the Indo lad that died, that's going to weigh heavily on you too. Has it been hard to deal with in those couple of years since?
Um, like I don't know, it's a bit of a strange one. PTSD, I guess it comes in many different forms. I've been fortunate enough to live an absolutely beautiful life ever since and before. I'm very very fortunate in my life. I've got a lot of great community around me, and I've got my purpose in life, and I've been striving towards things, and I've gone back out in the ocean since and been able to surf straight away. And I have a deeper connection with the ocean now. I took up endurance paddling because you can paddle for 24 hours without food and water. Surely you can compete for 7 hours with food, water, sleep, and a safety boat. So I went over last year and did the Molokai to Oahu in Hawaii, paddling from the 52K crossing of the Molokai Channel, and
That's
gonna go
the
back over
epic,
there
eh?
this year.
That's the pinnacle event, right, of endurance
Yeah,
paddling.
yeah. So I've been told that's like the Mount Everest of ocean crossing, and went over there with 4 months worth of training and got third in my age group. So, it was a special, very special moment out
Amazing.
there, and
Did that feel like a piece of
proved
cake? I
to,
mean, probably not, but yeah. How long
yeah,
does that
to be
take?
honest, it was challenging. It took me 6.5 hours,
Yeah.
6 hours 20. And yeah, it was definitely challenging for sure, but it took me about 5 hours before it was really challenging. Um, and the last hour and a half was torture, but that's to be expected.
Yeah.
Um, but it just showed me that, yeah, my my perception of what's possible for myself is far, far further than I could ever imagine. Like, yeah, there's all the classic endurance dudes, Goggins and all those guys that are like, when you're really broken, you're only 70% capacity. But like, when you get to 95% capacity, you realize how relaxing everything else is in life. And the professionals that I've spoken to, Dr. Paul Lucken, who's a time frame for survivability expert, he told me that based on my story, I probably had about 4 to 5 hours left before I would have been, you know, non-verbal, and non-oriented enough to stay on the board, and then subsequently died shortly after. So to be at that point of your wit's end and get through it, it's just incredibly empowering. So I guess back to PTSD, like, yeah, of course, I feel absolute regret for Fifan and his family, and I wish I could have done more for him and made everyone out of there alive. But there's nothing you can do. You just got to kind of wear these things and continue on with life and not dread on the past. And yeah, it'll come up. It always does. You have these thoughts and they'll ebb and flow like everything else, but you just got to stay positive and look forward and do the things that are good for you and the things that can get you out of ruts. And that's, exercise, train well, eat well, sleep well, and just don't take any day for granted. I think that's the biggest one I've learnt from all this. Like, yeah, I could have PTSD and think constantly about boat rides and shit like this, but at the end of the day, I survived something that few people will ever get to do in their lifetime. I think that, I was so fortunate to have an experience like this and be able to shift my perspective on life and be able to help others shift their perspective on life, hopefully, and have an amazing yarn, an amazing story that I enjoy telling, and yeah, it brings up a lot of emotion and a lot of energy, and that's not always the best, depending on where I am and what I'm doing. So yeah, I'm not always ready to tell a story,
Yeah.
but I do love telling it. I love sharing it, and I love people being able to understand what that is like, and perhaps change their perspective on some of the more mundane problems that they're experiencing, and
Yeah.
realizing that that's not going to be a big difference to your life in a month, let alone a year, let alone 20 minutes from now. So don't think about it, don't worry about it, and just laugh it off, because it's a big cosmic joke out there at the end of the day. Like, shit, I've talked to entities, I've been through all these weird
Yeah.
experiences, and, main thing that, I've realized is just how much travel, nature can change your life. And the ocean for me is my greatest teacher, my greatest companion, and my lifelong friend that will always be there. And I want to dedicate my next few years of health to exploring the ocean and doing more big paddles and just kind of, seeing where my limits really lie, because I haven't seen them yet. I've seen them close to it, but I can do it safely. I don't have to be about to die to really experience
Mm.
it. And I want to raise some awareness for the oceans and, try and help them thrive, essentially. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. I mean, I guess that telling your story um, is probably the best catharsis. It's probably the best way of dealing with whatever it may be, survivor's guilt or just the trauma of the whole thing. Is talking about it as healthy, and it's good.
Yeah, it definitely helps you process things. Just being able to articulate them. And I guess, every time you tell the story, it flows differently. And depending on your mindset, your mood at the time, you might harbor more, feelings of elation, feelings of joy, feelings of guilt, feelings of dread. And it's just fascinating for me to be able to tell the story every time and hear different twings and, things about it, and just understanding myself in each moment better for life, and just being honest with myself, and, you know, realizing what really did happen, and, just how fortunate I am, and how, you know, yeah, there's definitely some small, I'd say, PTSD around it, but it's not hindering my daily life. It's not hindering any part of my life. It might hinder me for 20 minutes one morning on a Sunday when I've had a few too many beers the night before, like it's not something I think about. It's not something I allow into my field. And yeah, it's not going to be able to penetrate the gratitude for life that I experience most days.
Yeah, it certainly seems like there's more good coming out of it than bad, Mate,
Most definitely.
if you were to step onto one of those Indonesian boats, those ferries again, would you? Is there any way that would number one, would you get on one, and number two, is there anything that you would recommend people get before getting on? Or do you buy a pack of flares and chuck that in your board bag? What do you do?
Mate, I'm definitely getting back on one of those boats. How else am I going to go surf remote waves without
True.
anyone else around?
Yeah.
Actually, mind you, I went and sailed there a year later with a lovely human, Grant Richardson, who was one of the civilians that came looking for us during the experience, and he took me and another mate of mine, Harry Fisher, over there for a sailing trip on his beautiful yacht, and we spent 4 weeks sailing from Nias to Thailand, and then 2 weeks on the boat in Thailand. So that was an amazing experience that I didn't have to get on an Indo boat for.
Yeah. Did you
But
get a few waves on the way?
oh shit, yeah, we got some sick waves. We had some epic times, and then what better way to cap it off than a couple of parties in Thailand with just two of your mates.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
and then a third mate actually met us over there, our good mate Chock, which was awesome to see him over there too. But yeah, I'll definitely get back on one of those boats. I think though the biggest thing for me to explain to other people and to help others understand is, shit can go wrong for sure, but don't not do it just because stuff can go wrong. Like, living in a state of fear is just going to hinder you, and it's going to make you not experience the best things in life. And these remote regions are the best. And I'll let you know on my Instagram when I'm going there, and just don't go there that time so I can get it to myself. But I'd be going, like, I've got an EPIRB now. I've got like a Garmin Mini InReach, and that thing's unreal. You can send satellite text messages off it. It's got SOS buttons. If you're going to get one, get it in Australia or whatever your native country is, because it will set up to your country. So if you send out an SOS signal and you're in Indonesian waters, Australian government can go from Australia into Indonesian waters. Whereas if you
Okay.
have it set up to an Indonesian like system, the Indonesians will get that, and they'll, come looking for you if they come looking for you. So you're way, way better off having it set up from an Australian system. And look into that when you're buying them. And if you're going to get one, which I highly recommend you do, it would be, they're tiny. They're smaller than your phone. They can just chuck them in your backpack. And if you need it, it's right there, and you'll be picked up within 5 hours. It's so much better than spending 38 hours fighting for your life. And yeah, it's an amazing experience, but I don't recommend it for
No.
anyone out there.
Yeah, that sounds better than a pack of flares. Yeah, that's good intel.
Yeah, for
Yeah, but
$400 you get a Garmin Mini, like little Garmin thing, and it's unreal. It's
yeah,
it's saves you. Like, I take it on big paddles now, and just in case,
yeah, that's great. Yeah, good for the boat, good for everything, really.
Oh,
Good for
100%.
good
And
for hiking.
yeah, and you get one between two for a boys trip. If you're going
Yeah,
surfing, like a surf trip, or you're with your partner or whatever, just chuck in $200 each and get one. Like, they're not like, for what they're gonna do for
yeah,
your life. They're not an expensive investment.
yeah. That's good advice. Well, Elliot,
Mm.
thanks a million. I know you've told that story a lot of times, but yeah, thanks for sharing it.
Yeah,
And
my pleasure, James. Thanks so much for having me on.
yeah, it was nice to meet you.
Yeah, likewise. And yeah, thanks for the book as well. Mine, I've been loving it. I've been reading it, and yeah, it's a great tale. And
Cool,
you got a
man.
really good writing style, and I love reading, I love writing. So yeah, it's cool. It's cool to get to tune in with you and share my story for the audience,
Yeah,
and keep the ball rolling with making a difference in this world, which is
for
what we're all
sure.
trying to do.
Have you ever considered writing the book of it of your story?
Steph's writing a book at the moment. A lot of it's her perspective and her what's led her to that experience, and the other challenges of her life. She's gone through a lot. That absolute soldier of a woman. And I've definitely considered writing it. I've started writing a potential screenplay for like a movie, just because it's kind of fun, actually, to be honest. To like write in dialogue of what your mates would say in
Yeah,
scenarios. It's pretty
yeah,
hilarious.
cool.
And yeah, I've definitely considered it. I got to tune in with Steph about it. I'm seeing her later today, and just see what her thoughts are, because the more people of the 12 to 15 of people involved that we interview, that she interviews rather, that I talked to her a lot about it, um, and she's just realizing how much there is to write, and
Oh yeah, so much.
the
Everyone would
way
have their
her
own.
book,
Everyone would have their own story, right? From your parents to your friends
100%.
to
Yeah, well, that's it, and the way her book is originally designed is a bit more captivating towards female empowerment, and the way that she dealt with the scenario, which is such a great thing for women out there, and it's such a beautiful sentiment. But then when you get into the nitty-gritty details of every single one of the lads on the trip and every single parent and every single thing, the book's going to be too long and take away from the purpose of her original, plan for the book. So
yeah,
um,
get a good
I'd love
editor.
to write it. I'd love to write it. I think it'd be great. I don't want to take away from her, 2 year long process that she's already been doing. And yeah, it's just, I think the screenplay is a fun thing for me to start with. It's a good way for me to kind of, yeah, just get into it, and it just makes it fun. I love writing. I love absolutely talking shit with my friends. So it's a way to do both and do it solo, which is kind of fun. And yeah, like, fortunate enough to have everyone still with me, still around from the crew. Like, Will's had a child now. He's got a young Daya. Him and Nikki, his partner, are living out in the Blue Mountains, and yeah, they've had some amazing trips. And Jordan and Cass, his partner, just did a big trip around the world. And they're settling back into New South Wales, Queensland region on the East Coast here, which is saw them recently, which is great. And then Steph and I are still so close. We're such, it's amazing to be able to alchemize the love we had as partners, and to be able to be best friends now and have so much care for one another, and be able to be there for one another whenever we need it, just because we know each other so well and we've been through so much together. So yeah, just absolutely love that girl and that woman, and absolutely blessed to have her in my corner and be in her corner. It's awesome.
Cool, man. Brilliant. Okay, Elliot. Thanks a million.
Beautiful. Yeah,
Appreciate it.
thanks again, James.
All the best.
See you, mate.
See ya. I hope you enjoyed the show. If you have a mad surf story or know of one, get in touch by emailing me at james@dragonbrothersbooks.com. The following is a chapter of one of my surf novels. You can listen to the rest wherever you get your audiobooks, including Spotify, Audible, Apple Books and Google Play. Or if you like books made of paper, you can find them on my website at dragonbrothersbooks.com. Just click on the menu and select Books for Adults. Or you can buy them on Amazon. All the best. Lines, written and narrated by James Russell. Chapter 3. It takes just 1 week in London to convince me I'd go nuts living here. After Indonesia, I can't stand the cold greyness of it, and travelling around on the tube, descending and then emerging back up from the earth, is wholly unnatural. I'm also freaking because the place is so fucking expensive. I'm down to my last grand, and although I try to mentally add it up, I can't figure out how I've managed to spend it all so fast. I'm staying in a backpackers in Shepherd's Bush, and one night I get on the piss with a Scottish bloke and tell him I'm thinking of going to Edinburgh. He advises me not to bother with Scotland at all, but to get myself immediately to Ireland. He says it's the best crack on the planet, but to be sure to bring an extra liver. It's a measure of my aimlessness that the next day I book a cheap Ryanair flight, and the day after that I'm in Ireland. I catch the air coach to Dublin bus station in the centre of the city and wander out into the streets without any sort of a plan. The city kids snigger at me walking along the streets with my surfboard under my arm. I get the last spot in a bunk room in a backpackers hostel, and it's a fun place with young travellers from all over staying there. I meet a bunch of Italians and Spanish in the kitchen when I'm cooking dinner, and afterwards we go out. We wind up at a Temple Bar nightclub, and at the end of the night I have a drunken fumble in the dorm with one of the Italian girls. We're trying to stay quiet, but we get some huffy protests from the others in the room, and she slips back out to her own room. I get some dirty looks in the morning, and I feel like a fuckwit. I don't see her again. One of the Spanish lads works at the backpackers, but he's due to leave, and he asks the manager if I can have his job. She doesn't seem to care one way or another, so he shows me the ropes the next day. All I have to do is man the front desk. The Spanish fella tells me it's the best way to meet girls, but he's a silver-tongued Lothario. The pay is so bad it's laughable, so I ask the manager to hold on to it for me and pay it at the end of the month so that I'm not tempted to spend it. I buy cans of baked beans for 30 cents and have them for dinner. I love the Irish immediately, even the little shits who pelt me with stones from behind the wall of the estate near the backpackers. Usually they're out front, mucking about on the footpath. They're tough as nails, street-smart lads who never seem to be at school. One day a German lad comes limping into the backpackers and tells me that the kids had cut open a soccer ball, filled it with rocks, and then asked him to kick it to them. He gets pissy with me for laughing, but I can't help it. One day I go over to them and they don't even pretend that they're going to run away. They just stand and stare at me, their chins defiantly in the air. A lad who can't be more than 12 expertly flicks the butt of his cigarette at my feet. I don't react. I say g'day and end up having a good chat with them, and then they sell me an eighth of hash for €30. I ask them if they're ripping me off and they fall about laughing. I've never smoked hash, so I've no idea what to do with it, and the oldest lad, who's about 16, shows me how to soften it with a lighter and crumble it over the paper. He takes out his own tobacco and rolls it for me there and then. I leave with a perfectly skinned joint, complete with cardboard filter. Now, each time I pass them, which is a couple of times a day, I stop for a yarn. Sometimes they're cold and angry, others they're funny as fuck. I get a sense of the divide in the city, the North Dubs versus the rich folks on the other side of the river. The street kids call them D4 and a million other names. I stay in town for 3 weeks before I'm over the grimy streets and the incessant rain. Back home we have awnings over all the city pavements to keep the rain off you, and it strikes me that if any country could do with them, it's Ireland. It pisses down all the time and you get drowned the minute you step outside. Yet no one in the city, other than the preppy European backpackers in the hostel, seems to own a raincoat. 2 French boys arrive at the backpackers carrying surfboards. It's their last day in the country, and that night I get talking to them. They've scored epic waves at a place called Bundoran on the west coast, and in particular at a spot out the front of the town known as the Peak. I figure if it's going to be wet all the time, then I may as well be at the coast. I tell the manager I'm quitting, and she hands me a little envelope with just over €600 in it, and she has me replaced by that evening. The next day I trudge back to the bus station and board the 11 a.m. bus to Bundoran. It takes all day and it's 5:30 by the time the bus pulls up. There isn't a sinner on the street because it's pissing with rain. It feels like I've arrived in the arsehole of nowhere. It's too dark to see the sea, but there's a constant onslaught of white noise coming from it. The wind is blowing onshore so hard that the rain tastes of salt. The bus driver points along the road in the direction of the only backpackers in town, and I battle the wind and rain to get to it. I check in, find my room and dump everything on the floor. I sit on the bed for a while, feeling low and alone. It's only when I go to the loo that I realise the envelope containing my pay from the backpackers is no longer in my pocket. I panic and sprint back to my room, and even though I know it isn't there, I turn my pack upside down on the bed and wildly rake through my belongings. When reality finally sets in, I sit on the edge of the bed, holding my head in my hands and moaning. I have just over €300 in my wallet, but that's it, the sum fucking total. The owners of the backpackers let me use their phone to call the bus service, but at this time of night the office is closed. I'll have to wait until morning. There's nothing else for it. I stuff €60 in my pocket and leave the backpackers for the pub. The wind screams in off the sea, driving the rain squalls so hard before it that they sting my cheeks as I run along the footpath. It only takes 30 seconds to get from the backpackers to the pub, but I'm drenched by the time I reach it. When I open the door, there's a blast of warmth which carries the scent of beer and salt and vinegar crisps and the welcome sound of conversation. It's like finding all the people who have been sheltering from the apocalypse. The place is fairly busy for a Wednesday night, but when I walk in, it's like a scene from a western. Everyone stops talking and looks in my direction. To my left, there are 3 lads of about my age sitting on low stools by the fire, and the one with his back to me is the last to turn around. He's tall and slight, with a wild mop of curly hair, big ears and freckles. He looks a bit like the grown-up version of the kid from the Mad comics. He'd been telling a story and was mid-sentence when he turned. Now he sort of looks to one side, sensing the pause in the room. Then a sudden smile splits his face as he looks at me. His comic timing is impeccable. He taps his wrist with his finger. "Where the fuck have you been?" he says loudly. I'm confused for a second, but his pals are grinning at him, then at me, and I realise he's messing. Water drips from my face. My clothes are wet through. I jerk a thumb in the direction of the sea. "Swimming," I reply, and they all laugh. I walk past them and take a seat at the bar. The barman is an old boy. He looks about 70, and he takes one look at me, fetches a bar towel and hands it over. "I'm always amazed at what a man will go through to get a pint," he says, and winks. I order a Guinness and he sets it down in front of me on a coaster as though it's a masterpiece. And actually, it is. I sit watching it, mesmerised by the caramel cascade down the sides of the glass as it settles. Behind me, I can hear everything the wild-haired lad is saying. He has no filter, no volume control. He's telling his mates about an old Dublin woman who visits her doctor every day without fail. "She's mental, totally fucked in the head, right?" he says. He leaves the T off the end of the word. Right. "But the doctor's a decent skin, right?" He humours her. He goes out to the waiting room day after day and chats to her for a couple of minutes. He puts his hand on her forehead and pretends to take her temperature and then tells her she's fine. Off she goes, happy as Larry. Every fucking day, right? Right. I say it under my breath, just like him. Then, one day, she doesn't turn up. They're not too worried, but the day after that she's a no-show again. They think about sending someone to her home to check on her, but no one ever thought to ask where she lives. They say they'll give it one more day. Then, the next day, here she is again. She wanders in, same as usual, not a bother in the world, sits down in the waiting room. When the doctor comes out, he says to her, "Mary, you had us worried. We haven't seen you for 3 days. Where have you been?" "I couldn't come," she says to him. "I wasn't well." The 3 of them roar with laughter, and I can't help it. I laugh too. I hear the scrape of a stool, and then the lad is suddenly beside me at the bar. He taps on the wood with his glass. "3 pints, please, Pat," he says. Then he turns to me. His eyes are cerulean, mad-looking. "How are you?" he says. "G'day," I reply. "Oh, Jesus Christ, are you an Aussie?" His eyes go wide. His jaw drops. The features of his face seem oversized, elastic, flamboyant. "Yep." "What the fuck are you doing here, man? Are you lost? Why would you leave that beautiful country to come to this shithole? You must be fucking freezing." "A little bit," I admit. "Fuck," he says. "Here I am trying to get the hell out of here to some place like where you come from, and ye lot are coming here, voluntarily. I don't fucking get it." "I guess the grass is greener," I say. "Well, you got that right anyway, but that's about all we have to offer." He puts out a hand, palm up. His arm is long, slender. Blue veins lattice a path of white skin between the freckles. "Name's Anto," he says.